In this video, I'm going to show you how you can vectorize any Procreate pattern using Adobe Illustrator. We need to grab our patterns first, so I'm going to hop into Procreate. I'm in Procreate and I have two previously created patterns right here. These were created following the exact methods that I teach in my floral patterns in Procreate course. I'll leave a link to that on screen and below the like button. One is a full drop pattern and one is a half brick pattern. And that's going to come into play once we're vectorizing and making this into a seamless repeat within Illustrator. So first we need to get these patterns into Illustrator. So I've got this full drop pattern selected first. We can just export this as a JPEG. So if you hit the wrench, share, and then choose JPEG, you can either airdrop it to a Mac like what I'm using, or if you're on a PC, just email it to yourself. Now this rasterized pattern does have some texture into it, which is the beauty of creating a rasterized pattern to begin with. I love playing with transparencies and textures when you vectorize. Just keep in mind that we are going to lose some of this detail because vector artwork is generally flat style artwork. So although vector artwork will be infinitely rescalable to us, where we can scale it as much as we want and we won't lose quality, we are going to lose some of these details. So in my opinion, it's always nice to have access to both types of patterns. And that's why I like creating my patterns as raster first and then vectorizing it if I ever need them to be vector. Let's go into the half brick pattern next. We're going to do the exact same thing. This one's got a little bit of texture, not quite as much as the last pattern. Now send it to your desktop or your laptop. That's all done now, so I will meet you in Illustrator. All right, we are inside Illustrator now, and we need to bring in those patterns that we just exported out of Procreate. So the first thing we need to do is create a brand new Illustrator document, and it needs to be the same size. The artboard size needs to be the same as the canvas size of the patterns that we exported. I use two different canvas sizes just because I wanted you to see the difference here. One is 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels, and then the other one's 3600 by 3600 pixels. So we're going to do the 3600 one first. That's my full drop pattern. So in order to do that, we're going to come up here and go File, New, and then over here I'm going to input 3600 by 3600. Where it says color mode, I'm working in RGB. It'll just really depend on what your client requests, or if you're using an online print service, what their specifications are. So just read through that, and if they're saying RGB, then change it to RGB. If you need CMYK here, then switch it to that. So for this demonstration, I'm using RGB, and then my raster effects are 300 ppi because it's the standard print resolution. And then I'm going to hit create. And now we have an artboard that's the same as our pattern canvas from Procreate. And now we need to go and grab our pattern. So I'm going to go File, Place, insert it in, and drag it until it snaps. So everything is perfectly aligned. And if you look up here, if you go to Window, Toolbars, Advanced, you'll see our X and our Y coordinates. You want to make sure these are perfect numbers, and then you'll know that you're perfectly aligned everywhere. That part's actually really important. So now that we've got everything lined up here, we're going to vectorize it. And this part is shockingly simple. All right, with this selected, we're going to come up here, toggle this arrow down, and choose 6 colors. I think I counted like 5 colors in this one, but we just want to get as close to that as possible. That will just make it easier if you want to recolor your artwork later on. Then you have a limited amount of colors. If you choose like high fidelity photo, you'll get so many different colors that'll be like basically impossible to recolor it consistently. So I'm going to choose 6 colors right here and hit OK. And it'll take a second to run, but then we'll be able to see the difference between our raster pattern and then the more flat style vector pattern. That just finished up, and you can see I definitely lost some detail, especially around these parts where I had that pretty texture coming through. But this is the flat style nature of vectorizing. And if you want to adjust your settings further before committing the changes for this vectorization, if you come over here and hit this little panel, it's the image trace panel, toggle down this advanced arrow. I usually play around with like the paths, the noise. Sometimes I'll fuss around with the corners a little bit, but you can play around as much as you would like and just see if you get a result that's more pleasing to you or more closely related to your original. But for the sake of time, we're going to move right along with this trace. So in order to commit your changes, you're just going to hit expand up here, and now it's vector. If I hit Command Y or Control Y on a PC, I can go into outline mode, and now you can see this is what it looks like when it's vectorized. We've got a vector pattern, but does it repeat? So let me come out of outline mode by hitting Command Y or Control Y on a PC. And in order to save this as a repeating swatch within Illustrator, which is the thing that you need to hand off to a client or an online printing service, I'm going to show you how to make sure everything is perfectly seamless from this point on. So I'm going to select everything, and I call this rubber band selecting. I just click and drag my mouse and then release. Everything is selected. We're going to come up here and go Object, pattern make. And now we're going to enter the pattern maker in Illustrator. And you can see that a new pattern has been added to the swatches panel. That's this little square right here. I'm going to hit OK. And I can zoom out, Command hyphen or Control hyphen on a PC. All of my copies are dimmed automatically, and you can change this if you want to dim them to 100%. You can see it as a fully repeating pattern right here. If this artboard line is distracting, you can hide it by going View, Hide Artboards, and then that black line will go away. This blue line is your pattern square, so you can't get rid of that one, but you can see this is the pattern and then how it's repeating. And I can zoom out further if we want to look at that. You can see we've got 3600 by 3600. That part's important. And now this is the most important part. Because this was a full drop pattern, meaning things repeat on the tops and bottoms and then both of the sides, we need to make sure that the tile type right here is a grid type. Our other pattern that we're going to be doing is a half brick. And if you ever get confused about pattern types, or if you want to know when the best times to use certain pattern types are, I have a completely free cheat sheet for you, and I will leave a link to that right beneath the like button. It is super helpful when it comes to pattern types. So now that we've defined our tile type, up here you just want to hit done. And now it's going to save it right here. And we can see it repeating in this part. This is always the part that I get really excited about. I'm going to hit M on my keyboard for the rectangle tool, just draw out a rectangle and then click on the swatch and then it fills it in. If I stretch this out, we can see how it continues to repeat. If you want to see it at a smaller scale, if you right click and then choose transform scale. Up here, you want to make sure uniform is selected, but down here, uncheck transform objects, that's on by default, and make sure transform patterns is selected and that you have preview checked. Now in the uniform part, I can put in like, do 75%, and you can see how it looks smaller. We'll do 50%. We can hit OK. So cute. And now we have a perfectly repeating vectorized pattern that was based off of our raster pattern that we brought in from Procreate. And we have that swatch right here whenever we need it. And if we want to come back to 100% on this one, all we have to do is click that little pattern swatch again, and it will give us 100% of the pattern. Now that we have the full drop one, let's do the half brick so you can see the difference between those two types. So once again, we're going to follow the same steps. I'm going to create a brand new artboard that's 2000 pixels this time by 2000 pixels since the half brick was created at that size. RGB, 300 ppi, file, place, and grab that half brick pattern. Pop it in here, make sure it's lined up. Now we can vectorize. This one's got 3 colors, and I'm going to choose 3 colors, hit OK. Okay, we did lose some of that texture. I would for sure fix some of these edges up. So obviously they're not super beautiful, but once again, for the sake of time, we're just going to move right along. Our tile type is set to grid, and we know that we created a half brick pattern. So we want this to repeat as a half brick instead of a full drop, which would be a grid. So I'm going to choose brick by row. So I'm going to choose brick by row, and you can see how this offsets it. And now this is staying consistent with the pattern type that I originally had in mind when I created this pattern in Procreate. And you can see that's beautiful. I can zoom in. Everything looks good outside of obviously the fixes I would have to make to the pattern itself with some of these edges, but we've got a perfectly repeating pattern. So you'll see we have this brand new pattern in this Illustrator document, and we have this brand new pattern in this Illustrator document. So if you want to keep them together or just have access to them for future Illustrator artwork or to hand off to future clients, then you'll want to watch this video next. And a quick reminder that free cheat sheet is right below the like button. I'll see you next week.